This is a true story. A man found himself trapped deep inside a cave, his body twisted to the extreme as he tried to squeeze through a passage barely wide enough for a person. But in a cruel twist of fate, his legs became wedged between the unyielding rocks, leaving him completely immobile. On July 18, 1998, Craig, Jessica, and their friends, Miller and Jennifer, ventured once again into Keyhole Cave. Due to its extreme narrowness, they had no choice but to enter backward, carefully bracing themselves with their hands and feet as they slowly descended. Trouble struck when Craig reached the Paul Passage. The tunnel was only 30 centimeters high, forcing him into a painfully contorted position. Every movement was a struggle. After painstaking effort, he attempted to descend into a 2.4-meter vertical shaft, the only way forward. Carefully extending his legs in search of a foothold, he suddenly realized something was terribly wrong. His left foot became wedged in solid rock, and his right leg slipped deep into a crevice. He thrashed desperately, but the more he struggled, the tighter the rocks held him. Jessica was the first to notice something was wrong. Miller immediately crawled into the passage to help, but the cramped space made movement nearly impossible. Every attempt to free Craig ended in failure. As time passed, the lack of circulation caused his legs to swell, worsening his predicament. Realizing they needed outside help, Jennifer made the difficult decision to leave and seek assistance. 5 hours later, a rescue team arrived. However, the passage was so narrow that only one person could enter at a time. They tried pulling Craig out with ropes, lubricating the rocks. Nothing worked. Fearing hypothermia, they used heat guns to warm the air around him and hastily set up a ventilation system to combat the dwindling oxygen levels. 30 hours passed. Craig was on the brink of collapse, his consciousness fading. Rescuers even considered the brutal option of breaking his bones to free him, an extreme measure that would only be used as a last resort. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the drilling team finally managed to carve out a tiny gap in the rock. A rescuer handed Craig a drill. His fate was now in his own hands. With his heart pounding, he gripped the drill tightly. This was his final chance. Holding his breath, he summoned every ounce of strength. Suddenly, the rock shifted. With one last desperate yank, his legs broke free. But the nightmare wasn't over. His legs were severely injured, and every step was agony. For the next 8 grueling hours, he fought his way out, inch by inch. Finally, at 9:15 a.m. on Monday morning, Craig emerged from the cave, greeted by the first rays of daylight. This disaster could have been avoided. At any point in that narrowing passage, Craig could have turned back, but he kept pushing forward, testing his limits. What he didn't realize was that caves are unforgiving. They can make countless mistakes, but for explorers, a single mistake can mean the difference between life and death.